Welcome to the EarthWorks Podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons, and we are live at the GIS Convention and Trade Show and up on the podcast. And I have a bunch of guests, and we're going to be running a couple people through here as we talk, as people are wandering around us at the show and not anybody paying attention. Kevin Hicks from EarthWorks is with us, and I am very happy to have my dear friend Todd Bohn and Woody Moriarty from some place in Arizona desert. What is it? There you go. How many courses do you have?
7.
Wow. I don't know how you guys do that. So you've been out there for a year?
It'll be 2 years in July.
See how time flies?
Time flies.
Yeah. And how long's Woody been there?
I've been there about 14 months.
Good. So you were brought in to basically be the muscle and do all the real work so that Todd could do all the politics?
Exactly.
There you go. There you go. Kevin.
Thank you. So I wanted to get these two on and kind of talk about, obviously, the scope of your project is so big, and there's so many moving parts. And every time I'm out there with you, it's just, it boggles my mind how you guys wrap your heads around a day's work. But I want to talk about how you built the team, kind of break it into two parts. How you built your team, and also get Woody's input on the water infrastructure and how, because that's kind of your main charge is getting water to every one of those golf courses in a timely and efficient fashion, right?
Yes.
So let's start with team, and Todd wants Woody to talk. So let's start with where you started with building the team and how you sit now, because I know you're in a lot better place. You've got a lot of the key players in place now, so talk about that.
It took a while to get the key players, in place.
Yeah.
We just surround ourselves with good people, and good superintendents are they're not hard to come by, but they're hard to come by. And with that capacity of what we're pushing through and what we demand in excellent golf, we just, like I said, good people.
And Todd, I know for you, we've talked a lot about that. There's so many moving parts on that property. We've talked a lot about your desire to get each of your superintendents to a point where they can make decisions per their property and yet still kind of stick to the overall plan. And that's been a challenge, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, that is my main focus is I don't want to be a micromanager of them. I want to have good quality individuals that can be there, and I want them to feel like they're superintendents because they are. I don't want them to feel like my assistant in a sense. And so they know the end goal. We have missions and we have vision statements, and they know that. And how they get there, I kind of let them have autonomy of how they do it and how they get there to a sense. But we're there to guide them. Woody and I are as well. And if they have the passion and the desire to be great and to pursue excellence, then they're a pretty good fit for us.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the main thing that we look for and want. And like Woody was just saying, it's a very complex system that takes a lot of really, really good people. And we've got a really strong team now that we're really excited to have this year.
Okay, so let's back up for a minute and talk about numbers. And you also happen to have underneath you, and kind of caught you off guard at first, that the landscape division is also underneath you and in your facilities. You share facilities with them. So what's, on a given day, how many bodies are on that piece of property?
When we're running full steam like we are kind of right now, we're close to 215 people on staff.
That's just golf course staff.
That's just golf course staff. The landscape team is no longer underneath me. We broke that off recently, and they're now part of the facilities team. Much thankful for that. I mean, that's one less thing.
Very happy to hear that.
Share that. I look happy.
My plate is full with 7, so I don't need another. Or both of our plates, I think. So, so we, it's a massive place with a lot of people, and it takes two strong leaders to really manage it all and to handle it along with our team.
So another backup moment, but the other thing that's very unique about your property and has been for a long time is that you're managing you have zoysia grass now, so you're managing every grass that grows in North America, depending on the golf course, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I guess we don't have paspalum out there. That's the one thing we don't have.
We can.
But yeah, we utilize Bermuda grass. We have cool season ryegrass all year long.
Yep.
Bent grass greens. Now we are dabbling with a little zoysia out there. Just some of these newer varieties. Testing them, seeing how they perform. Our elevation is an unusual thing out in Arizona.
And varied.
Very. I guess it's not unusual in Arizona, but there's, when people think of Phoenix, they don't think of being 2,800 to 4,000 feet in elevation up,
right,
which gives us the opportunity to be a little different than everybody else and do some things differently, and allows us to grow cool season year round.
So how many are overseeded and how many are permanent cool season?
So our strategic plan of our club is to have a 3-3 grassing plan is what we call it. You're going, 3 plus 3 doesn't equal 7.
Right.
That's, I did go to K-State,
right,
but I do know. But the 7th golf course is our par 3, which is a cool season golf course. But I'm just talking about the 3 championship is to have a 3-3 plan, which allows our membership out there to have more golfing days than anybody else in the valley. So we get an additional 70 to 80 days of golf for our members, which was a strategic goal before I arrived. And so the cool season courses allow us to be open in those times when other courses are overseeding or growing in overseeding, or we're overseeding our 3 Bermuda courses that we do overseed. So it allows us to have golf at all times, and is a unique plan and a cool way of doing things.
Yeah, and even within that overseeding plan on those 3 golf courses, you've mixed it up a little bit to address some issues with weed control and things like that, where you're overseeding a portion of the golf course or all of the golf course. And are you still planning on taking one out every so often, and so that you can do some of that stuff on a more regular basis?
Yeah, we're trying to find the balance right now of is full overseed, partial overseed, or utilizing paints and pigments. You got to be living under a rock to not know the water situation in the state of Arizona right now. So we're paying attention to that and just understanding that. But I don't know if that's going to be. My recommendation to the club is, every 5 to 7 years, holding each course out to have an opportunity to spray out the POA and the weeds, because it is a very beneficial practice to do, and is shown to be proven and a good practice to follow.
Okay. All right, so you segued exactly where I wanted to go next, and now you're up to talk, Woody, about the water infrastructure. Because if you haven't been there to experience how that system works, talk about that, because every time I'm together with you, you're on your phone watching water move around that property. So give me a 5-minute summary of how you handle that.
It's rather daunting, and we basically, thank you, Todd. We basically bring in 4.5 million gallons a day.
Every day of the year, basically.
I mean, we could.
Give or take.
Yeah, but when we're not using it, we don't, of course, bring it in. But I call the city of Scottsdale before 8 o'clock every day and have a game plan. And then it can drop into 2 different areas. One's a holding pond of about 10 million gallons, and one's a holding pond of about 6 million gallons. And then it moves through transfer lines throughout the golf course and into the
You have to call the water department every morning?
Yes, sir.
Is that just to make the arrangement for the drop?
Yes.
Make a gallonage request.
Right.
So way back when this system was built, we basically bought 4 shares through the city of Scottsdale, and each share is 1 million gallons. And we were fortunate enough to buy 4, and we call it in, they put it through their telemetry system, and they pump it up.
How do you know how much each morning? How do you do based on a meter?
So it was just a guess when Todd and I first started.
All right.
So we've learned, and the superintendents text me
Gotcha.
night before.
So everybody's involved.
It was real scientific. When water started running down the road, then they told the city to shut it off.
And trust me, there's been some sleepless nights where I brought too much in,
Yeah.
and people don't use it. So that's when we started getting into the texting system. And so I just compute it in my head and know that it can hold this much.
Very scientific.
And we're not in my head, it's not scientific, but yes. And we started out with a bad holding pond. That's what was our number one problem. We could only the capacity of it was half.
Oh, wow.
Because
The main holding pond.
Main pond, yeah.
it had holes in it, and
That's a problem with water, isn't it? It's
Yes.
Kind of.
It kind of
Finds a way to get out.
meanders. Yeah, it finds its way out, and so we did that right away. Within 6 months, we were up and running, and we were running from 6-foot capacity to 12-foot capacity real quick.
Wow.
And that makes a difference because I was running to get down to like a foot at night.
Yeah.
And pumps don't do well when you don't have water.
I've heard that some.
And,
Yes.
and Todd mentioned that the elevation variance between the golf courses is from 2,800 to 4,000 feet. So you're transferring over a lot of elevation, which means
Yes.
you've got a lot of different transfer pumps, and water's jumping from pond to pond and holding facility, right? So
Yes.
how many individual pump stations are there on that property?
There's
including
6
boosters.
transfer pumps, and
Six
then,
transfer
and then
pumps.
7
Okay.
pumps for the golf course. So I climb down in regularly to check them, and it's fun to do that and see how much water we're transferring.
Right.
I always take a peek. You never trust the numbers when you read it on your phone. You always have to look at the lakes and see where they're at, and it's interesting.
So, okay, you have to see it to believe it. But what's on the horizon for you guys? What can you talk about? What's coming up?
What's the secrets? Give us the dirt.
What's the 3-year plan?
What's
we don't have any major secrets.
Just wing it.
Yeah. So obviously we're in a club that was built in 88, 89. So there's a lot of aging infrastructure up there that the club's really focused on, and like everybody else in the country right now, the health of our club is very strong, both financially and member-wise, with wait lists and all that stuff going on. And so we're in a very great position right now, we feel, as a club in the Scottsdale area. We're completing a new clubhouse down at Renegade right now. Just got done doing another renovation at Renegade this year. Hopefully it's going to member vote here in in March, but hopefully September 23. We've got plans to, we're calling it a restoration. It's not a renovation, but a restoration of Cochise.
Which is one of the originals. New greens, new irrigation, new bunkers, and then we're going to convert the Bermuda grass out that's there and go to newer varieties, Tiff Tough Tahoma combination to be, they're 30-40% drought tolerant, so everything's towards this water thing. Right.
And good playing conditions. And then we'll see where we're at as a club. We got a 5-year plan of then going in right into Geronimo, because Geronimo is the same way, which is one of our courses, one of our originals. It needs the same facelift that the others do. And then the elephant in the room at the club right now is the Cochise Geronimo Clubhouse, which is kind of the central hub of the club. We have 2,050 members, so displacing 2,050 around and taking away their main building is tough. But that building's in desperate need of needing upgraded and renovated. It's got like 7 different level changes in it, which isn't good for an older membership or getting around. And so those are just some of the strategies we're looking at. But those are the things that are on the horizon, I'm sure, along with a few others that'll come around. But when you have 7,
there's
places,
always something going on.
There's always something.
So there aren't those days where you've just got your feet up on the desk, just wondering what to do today.
Well, I do that all the time. That's why I got Woody here.
Let me ask you about that, because you guys have known each other for a long time, and so you get there and you realize I could use a little bit more help. And you tell me how you met this guy, and how you guys go back a lot of years, right? I know there's a lot of stories that you don't want to tell, but
we do. I was his assistant. He was my very first superintendent.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Back in 2000, somewhere in there, when I graduated school, which is aging. But just had the opportunity to, he mentored me through my career along with a couple other people. And, it's just been lucky. I've been very fortunate to get where I am. But when I took on a role like this, I knew I had to have a good right-hand guy who you can trust and who's got your back. And
so you called your old boss.
Who kind of thinks like me, which is scary. Or I think like him, I guess. It's probably more like it. But yeah, so I was very fortunate and had the opportunity to get him to come out there. So
Woody, what was he like as a green stirrer when he first came out? What was the first couple of days like when?
Besides the obvious that you taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, he was very impatient. Very.
Fortunately, that's changed now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
nothing.
not
and so
really.
so now you're working for him. That makes sense. Yeah. Somebody has to calm him down.
Yeah, and we bounce each other ideas off of each other every day.
It's great watching you guys work. I mean, when I come out and see you guys and seeing you work together, it's just like it's like a glove on the other hand.
He's like a brother.
Yeah, that's
There's
good.
no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs somebody that they can trust and they can count on. And who else than your old boss, man? Right?
Right.
And he knows all the secrets.
There's aging infrastructure at Desert Mountain. I'm aging too, but I'm aging.
Aren't we all?
Your infrastructure aging along with it, right?
So you're going to be there for?
But I don't have a plan to replace him yet.
That'll be hard.
Yeah,
you have to keep going through your old boss files and see what happens. Now, it's a great story because you guys go back so far, and I'd forgotten that you were his boss. But like I said, we should talk more about his impatient stories when you get there.
He had an opportunity to move it at another golf course, and he didn't get that other job. And he came to me, and I noticed it was of course, in the Missouri. It snowed that day, and
Shocking.
And we were sitting around, and I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I didn't get the job." And he says, "I got something to tell you. I'm going to move in a different direction." And I'm like, "Wow, that's not what I thought but he had waited long enough and he moved into lawn care. I knew it was a mistake. He came back, 4 months later?
Okay, I'm wrong.
And then we found him another job, and that's really what started his career. I didn't start his career. He moved around and met the right people.
Yeah, you got to see what you don't want to do,
Right.
Which is good.
I introduced him
I don't know if I ever knew that story. That's very funny.
He was pouting. Just like anybody. It was his first opportunity.
Did you make him grovel a little bit when he came back? Just a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than...
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yes.
That's great.
Well, guys, I appreciate it. We're gonna be talking to a couple people here today, but it's always a pleasure to see you guys. Like I said, we wanted to get Woody here as well because you guys are such a great team, and getting out there and realizing that maybe an old friend might be a good thing in the middle of the desert. But yeah, Desert Mountain must be quite a challenge for you guys, and it's wonderful that it's working out as well as it started.
It's been fun as a bystander to watch the pieces kind of fall into place for you guys and build the team that you needed, and they're all marching in lockstep now, which is great.
Well, we both appreciate being able to come up here. And I remember when I first started that I was getting coaching from you, Kevin, and you, Joel, and you both were telling me that
Calm down.
That the pieces will come in, but there's my impatience. So it's still rearing its head to this day.
It's got to, it's one of the biggest jobs in the country, so there's got to be a lot of impatience. I mean, you got so many moving parts there. It's just amazing. But thank God you have Woody.
Yes.
That's all we can say.
Yes.
That's all you say every morning.
Appreciate you coming.
All right. I'm sorry, Kevin, for taking it. But, the impatience, it goes with we're seeding or we're spraying.
Yeah.
And I love the questions. Oh, we're not done? Well, you just told me 2 hours ago, but we'll get it done. So, I mean, it's a great thing because we do push each other.
Yeah. Good.
And
see, that's the lesson learned. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you showing up. We're going to move on, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we will see you on the floor. Hopefully the show has been good for you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, and good luck with your little award tonight, I think. That's going to be fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. We are now here. I will properly introduce my friend Walter Pritchett from
Hurstbourne Country Club in Louisville, Kentucky.
I have a mental block.
Right, when you're from the Louisville area,
Really?
you just kind of slur everything.
Say that again.
Right?
Louisville.
It just slurs all together.
I have had some of the best times I've had in a long time coming down to see you guys in Louisville. Of course, I'm a bourbon addict, so it's not a hard thing, but it's been really a lot of fun. I mean, you guys are, describe your climate. I mean, you are as bad a climate as anybody in the country where you guys are.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we were negative 20.
Great.
And we'll get above 100 degrees in the summertime.
Right.
So
see, that's easy.
Yeah, so Dr. Powell, former extension from the UK, used to say, in Kentucky, we can grow every grass in the United States equally poor.
It's this
Welcome
transition.
to the transition.
Yeah.
Welcome to the transition zone, right? So, we have on my course, we have on the championship course, we've got Myers-Zoysia fairways. We're in the process of converting our tees from bent grass to Zeon Zoysia. We have.
How do you feel about that? You looking forward to it? I would think so.
Catch up on some sleep.
Yeah, not have. Well, I mean,
You're smiling.
It's a smart playability decision. It's
Right.
a smart business decision. We're reducing our water. We're reducing our labor. We're reducing our inputs. I mean, it's a
It's a great grass.
And it's a great grass. It's a better playing surface too.
Yeah.
So when you run the numbers, it's about a $50,000 a year savings to the club, and it's a better playing surface.
Right.
So it's a win.
Have you worked with Zeon before?
We've had it on our practice tee.
So you've been playing with it at the course.
Yeah. 3 or 4, 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And we just built a brand new short game practice area, and we put that on our fairways.
Seems like a lot of Zoysia coming into your area.
Yeah, there is a lot of most of the bent grass fairway golf courses are transitioning to either Zoysia or one of the newer Bermudas,
right.
Latitudes or Tahoma or something like that. You know what? I'm not sure if there. Oh, there's one bent grass fair club left in the Louisville market.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Wall to wall bent grass. You're saying.
Yeah.
So to account for the change in growing season, obviously there's a dormancy function with
Right.
Zoysia grass. Is it typical to use pigments and paints in the wintertime, or you just kind of play it as it lies?
We don't get enough play to warrant that.
Okay, and there's so much biomass there.
Right.
I'm sure it's not a wear issue.
No, playability is just fine,
Right.
right? The issue with Zoysia, or at least the Myers-Zoysia in our area, well, there's a couple, but you've got we stay cool enough to where the Zoysia's growing, or it's green for 6 or 7 months, but it's really only growing for about 6 or 7 weeks.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, it's green. It's there. It's growing enough to where you might have to mow it once a week. But having to get out and get after it and mow it 2-3 times a week.
Sure.
That's only for about a 6-week period.
It's funny where I was at my last golf course. I taught my guys we had a rule of 60. We had about 60 good days of growing conditions where we could really make some progress.
Yeah. So if you get any damage, you're not growing it back in, right? You're getting the sod cutter out.
Right.
So.
Talk to me about your clubhouse. You and I walked around that, and there's some great history there. And it was a wonder. I really was grateful that we had a chance to walk around, but it was cool.
It's really interesting.
One of those classic.
The original part of the clubhouse, the property was originally deeded to Colonel Linden in after the Revolutionary War, in the late 1700s.
And who was he?
He was a. Legend has it he was on the boat with Washington when they crossed the Delaware.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. That's the legend, right?
Wow.
So there's some stone houses on the property.
Yeah, you showed me that.
A stone spring house and another stone house on there that were the originals. That they're small, very small, but they were built in the mid to late 1700s. The original part of the clubhouse was built in the 1850s.
Yeah.
And then in the around the turn of the century, the Hearst family bought it. It was a roughly 1,000-acre farm at that time. So they bought it and renovated it to the old English style of English Tudor style that it is now. And then when the club purchased it in the 60s, they operated everything in the old house, and we've just expanded over the years.
Yeah, it's truly beautiful. I mean,
when you look at it from the 18th tee, you only see, anything when you're on the front of the clubhouse, you only see the original building.
The first part,
everything's
from the
been
1850s.
All the member amenities have kind of been built off the back of it.
Are they still building on that, or?
Yeah, we're doing a renovation of the clubhouse right now.
Okay, that's what I thought. I knew you were busy.
About a $3 million. We're redoing the locker rooms, fitness areas.
Yeah, I think you showed me that.
Dining, doing some more dining, putting in some simulators.
How many members?
All in, it's a little over 600.
Big family membership?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of kids playing golf too, right?
We got a lot of kids, and that's why we just renovated our short course.
Yeah.
We've got a course that has it's a little 9-hole short course. I think the longest hole is probably 280 yards.
Yeah.
A lot of 3 par 4s and everything else are 6 par 3s.
Yeah, you were working on some of that this summer, right?
So we just renovated that. Did some work with Keith Foster. It was an in-house renovation. And went back to it kind of had the old 60s, just kind of average 1960s architecture to it, and nothing special. So we wanted to make it feel like it'd been there 100 years. So we went back to that 1910, 1920s architecture style. Squared off greens, steep face grass bunkers. The tees are just extensions of the last green complex. It's just really, really cool.
How old is the course itself?
It was built in 1966.
Okay, so it's not all that old.
No, a little over. What is that?
But I remember walking around with you looking at that.
But it's got to feel like it's been there for
a long time.
For a long time. It's got some of the stone walls that Kentucky are famous for. So next to the clubhouse. The clubhouse has got that old feel. One of the residents next to the clubhouse, it's got this stone barn so it feels like the club really feels like it's been there a lot longer than it has.
Yeah, when you told me that, we walked through it did feel very old. It's stately old Kentucky property. And
that's our goal, right? That's what we're trying to produce is a golf facility that feels like it's 100 years old.
Yeah.
So with full amenities, I'm always curious when we get someone on here, I like to ask some of the nuts and bolts of the operation as far as with full amenities. Obviously, I would assume that you were doing record rounds on the golf course over the last couple of years. Have you been able to sustain that? Has that kind of maintained that level, or have you seen a little drop off this year?
Oh no, we've actually increased. This was our busiest year ever.
It seems to be the trend.
When I got to Hurstbourne 20 years ago, we were doing about 15,000 rounds a year, 15 to 18 somewhere. We did a little over 25 this year.
Okay. Wow, that's quite a jump.
And in realistically a 7-month season, 8-month season.
So your budget doubled, your salary doubled. All these things fall through.
Staffing.
So you're going to be my next green committee chairman.
Okay. I'll be happy to. I'll be very happy to. What's the biggest challenge?
Labor.
Yeah.
Right. That's
how is labor in Louisville? I know I've talked to you a lot. You guys had dinner with a bunch of you guys.
It's doing okay. Yeah. You can find it, but we've got 2 Ford plants, a GE plant, Amazon, UPS hub. So
starting at $35 an hour.
So that $17 to $22 an hour employee can go work somewhere in a better environment for more money and better benefits than grinding away on a golf course.
Yeah.
So it's tough to find that guy, right?
Yeah.
But they're out there. We use most of the clubs in town have kind of started switching over to the H-2B program for our seasonal help. Assistants have been, or if you just look at the GCSA job board, right? There's probably 300 applicants.
Yeah, probably so.
It's probably 300 openings right now, right? So, we've moved a little bit. At Hurstbourne, we've kind of adjusted our model, and I'm not necessarily going after the college age kid coming out of school anymore, right? We're paying a little better wage, and I'm looking for the guy that has either had a couple of years as an assistant or a superintendent at a smaller club that wants to take, he can come work at Hurstbourne with better resources for, more for the same pay and,
a little less stress in his life.
Stress in his life, right?
Yeah.
That's a win for me, right? To get somebody who has the eyes of a superintendent and the desire to still do it.
It's definitely a trend I've seen around my territory as well, and it's funny because 25 years ago you didn't really think about that guy as a key component of your operation or of your team, but now you've got stability. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be shopping for that guy every 2 or 3 years.
Right.
There's a lot. There's a lot to be gained from it.
So this is the first year I've been fully staffed in my assistance roles. So we've I say first year, in the last several, right?
Yeah.
So you'd hire one would leave. You'd hire one would get out of another one would get out of the business, right? So my lead assistant, Matt Shalleck's been with me for over 10 years. So that, so that's kind of stabilized that spot. But those other two guys, right, it's just kind of been a revolving door. Well, now we have two former superintendents that, one of them's young, one of them's a little older, but they've kind of stabilized that, and I think it's gonna be the best staff we've had in a long time. Looking forward to a really good, successful year.
So does that convert into you maybe taking a little bit of a step back and then taking a day off now and again, or are you still driving pretty hard? When you got a team like that in place, there's got to be an opportunity to kind of step back.
I step back.
Maybe that's not the right way to say it.
Kind of my day, a typical day for me is, I get up early, I work out. I got a group of guys I work out with, and I get to work about 30 minutes after they get the guys going, right? So we start the process the day before, right? We have a meeting before we leave, so they know what's going on in the morning. I get to work, take a shower, change clothes, and I just start walking the golf course, and taking notes on my phone, helping the guys with whatever job they're doing, and just kind of looking and seeing and what needs to be done, and then by the time I finish my walk, they're wrapping up their morning jobs, and we move into what's next, right? That's assuming there's no projects or anything big going on. That's just an average Wednesday, right?
Sure.
So it has allowed me to actually do my job, right? I don't have to do an assistant's job, right? I don't have to be on a sprayer. I don't have to be fixing an irrigation leak or managing a small
You're the conductor,
crew, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The way you should be.
And that's really helped, and that's going to. And I think the members are going to see that, right? There's going to be more attention to detail. That not all the little things aren't going to fall through the cracks anymore.
Well, just an opportunity for you to be interacting with the membership a little more frequently is helpful for the operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything coming up? Projects?
Well, this coming year we're doing nothing major. It's about a $2.5 million project on the championship course. We're just it's a cleanup project.
Yeah.
Just cleaning up bunkers, moving a couple of tees. Just stripping 10, 15 feet around every green and just getting rid of the sand splash, sand splash from bunkers, getting the grades back to where they were supposed to be and all the tie-ins, right? So nothing major, but it's going to probably be a 90-day project.
Will you bring Foster
August.
back in to assist with that?
He's going to be
Good.
Let me ask you about dirt. What's the native soil in Louisville? How do you describe it? Your native soils.
Depends on where you are. It can be really, really good.
Yeah.
Or it can be absolute garbage.
Shocking.
Which one are you?
I'm
got a little bit of both.
I'm absolute garbage. When it was a farm, and then it was a sod farm for a while,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and then and then when they built it in the 60s, all of the topsoil was pushed off for the residential yard.
Shocking, isn't
right?
it? Yeah.
It's pushed off for residential.
Should be a law against that.
Or used in the features.
Right.
So when I got to Hurstbourne 20 years ago, doing some tests, our fairways perked at less than 1/10 of an inch an hour.
Wow.
And we had zoysia with, 4, 6, 8 inches of thatch on it. If you run an air fire through it, and it looked like you ran a tiller. It just rolled up right behind it.
Right.
You could just pick it up off the ground.
You would feel like you're standing in our booth with this 4-inch padding underneath our carpet.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
But through limiting nitrogen, a lot of calcium.
Yeah. Looking at soil
some
tests.
deep tine aerification, just letting the zoysia just kind of eat on itself and feed itself. That just over time, we also incorporated some sand top dressing for a while, but we weren't trying to sand cap, right? We got concrete sand, what I call garbage.
Just trying to dilute a little bit.
Just to kind of break it up and get it down in the soil and create pore space.
Yep.
Miles and miles and miles of drainage.
It's amazing what a little oxygen can do for
It is.
I've heard that
for
somewhere.
degradation.
Yeah. There was already plenty of carbon in the system from all of the thatch.
Yeah. But it was just undigested. and
so we just had
hard
to get
chew
it.
on.
We had to get it working.
Yeah.
And once it got working, I mean, it was amazing how fast that 4-6 inches of thatch went down to now very firm, tight fairways.
Good playing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. What's the winter been like? How easy has it been?
Other than that stretch around Christmas where we were well below zero, it's been a milder winter.
Yeah.
A lot of rain. But warm temperatures. A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we're growing in those chapel greens.
Right.
Our 9-hole course. We're growing those in the winter with covers, and we're pulling the covers off every 7 days and mowing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, and mowing.
When were they planted?
Late October.
Okay, that's good.
And we're gonna open in May, and they're probably
Getting dense?
They're probably 80% there now.
Oh, beautiful. That's great.
What did you select for greens?
So on our short game area, we put in Pure Distinction. Just to test. It's a great grass, right?
Sure.
But I wanted to see how it worked in our area. But on the chapel course, because we want it to look older, I did a blend. So it's Pure Distinction, A1, and Pure Select. So I wanted it to kind of have a model
Absolutely.
look, so it didn't look like it's
Match the course a bit.
I didn't want
It's
it
the
to look.
Armen Suny theory.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I didn't want it to look like we had patched a nail hole in the wall and just painted the nail hole.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Walter, I got to thank you very much. Like I said when we started, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you this year, and I hope to be able to come back out and
Man, I appreciate everything
hang out.
you've done
Yeah,
for
it's
me.
been fun. I love the area, and the little kept secret I hold behind my glass case is that I was born in Kentucky, so I got a little root there, which is kind of nice. And of course the bourbon thing isn't a bad thing. So what's the favorite bourbon? You have to at least give me that.
Oh man,
I know, put you on the spot.
There's a lot of good ones. I really like the anything from Weller or Willet. They're good, but
we actually got to go out to that when we were playing hooky from seeing you. We went out to the the distillery.
A lot of our members are work with the Old Forester brand.
Oh yeah.
So
I like it.
That's also a go-to.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get you on the podcast proper at some point.
Oh
But
man, I appreciate you having me.
I'll see you out here in the
Thanks
spring.
for everything you've done for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Walter.
Thanks for coming up.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Suny, why don't you come and join us? As I said earlier, we are live at the GIS, and we are talking to some friends that we've run across as we've been wandering around the last couple of days, and one of my dear old friends, and I say old very graciously, because I think I'm older than you, aren't I?
Yeah, I think you got me by a little bit.
By a couple of weeks. It's not a whole lot. How are you? It's good to see you. Armen Suny. Everybody knows Armen. I don't even know how to introduce you at this point in my life.
Yeah, I don't either. It's
Armen is
to me.
originally from the Philadelphia area, and we have some joint friends in there. And is that running? We're just doing a little tech on check. So, are you working? You're wandering. What are you doing? You're just out there recruiting people, gathering names, and what's going on here this week for you?
Yeah, it's good. I love the show, and I like the size of it this year. I actually walked in about 4 hours.
You can get
Which is
around it
really
all
good.
in one shot.
Yeah, I always look at the show and I walk around like, if we had 95% less products and companies
And booths.
could you still have a great golf course?
Yeah, exactly.
I think you could.
I like that idea. I like that. Less is more. It's just got to be the right less.
Yeah.
as my
You should
friend
have told me to
said.
turn the PA off before you said that, because that's probably not a real popular opinion with TCSA.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until a couple months ago that you two have so much connection and history. And I every time.
Kevin tries to avoid that, but
Yes.
yeah.
Well, no, he told me a lot of stories and things that we can't talk about at
He's
the
still
podcast.
on my resume, though.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of resumes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys went back that far. Tell these stories.
Yeah, I think I'd moved up. I was a tournament director
You were.
at that point
Yeah.
at the International Castle Pines.
You moved
Yeah.
up, but not out. You were still
Yeah.
pretty deeply
At Castle
involved.
Pines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my foray in.
Did you have any interaction with this young Mr. Hicks?
I
at the
tried
time?
not to.
Okay,
no.
good.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I always went out on the golf course.
Yeah.
I couldn't control myself,
Shocking.
Yeah, and we had such a great group of interns that had come through at different
Yeah.
times. That was, to me, that was always the best part of the job. Really was.
Absolutely.
That we got to see all these young people and watch them develop. And there's probably half a dozen of them I saw here already
Walking around, yeah.
walking
Yeah.
around. And
And I'm sure you would share this opinion, but I think that's, for me, that's always been my proudest career achievement, is having people come up now to the booth and that worked for me through the years. And, I'm well into the 40s as far as how many
Right.
people, interns or assistants, and you've got to have 140.
I lost count.
You have a
Yeah.
database, don't you,
Yeah.
somewhere locked away.
Yeah, but and quite frankly, not all of them were good. It's you had all different skill levels.
Yeah.
and it reminds,
For those of you listening, he pointed at me when he said not all were good.
Yeah, I noticed that, actually.
but I remember talking to Joe Dewich from Penn State, the great professor there, asking him about the classes at Penn State, because when I went there was about 130 applicants for 35 spots.
Yeah.
Average age was like 22.4, and they averaged 2 years of college.
Right.
So
What year are we talking about?
I graduated from the 2-year program in 80.
In 80, okay.
Yeah. So I remember, and Joe and I got to be friends, and I asked him at one point, Joe, I said, in every class, I said, there's maybe a half a dozen guys that are really good that I know are going to be successful. I said, why do you let some of these other folks in when you have so many to choose from? And it was very interesting. He said, the charge of this program was to provide superintendents for the state of Pennsylvania. He goes, everybody can't be focused on top jobs.
Right.
We have to produce a broad cross-section of potential superintendents for the
Interesting.
future.
You need crew. You need everything.
Yeah.
You need, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, Joe was just a smart guy
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that in my days at Rutgers. You'd see the guys that you could clearly tell are going to be the hot shots.
Right.
And then, there's, you go through a lot of guys, like you guys were saying, seeing a lot of guys even here. Some of these guys have done great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a great business that you can really work your way through, get that experience. And, as long as you love what you're doing, it comes easy and it's great.
And that really, the passion for it,
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So let's talk labor force, since this is your baby right now.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs, no people, lots of people. I think we know the answer to this, but I'll let you share it.
Well, it's interesting. I think everybody has seen this freight train coming at us through the tunnel.
Yeah.
The lights on.
Yes.
There's a shortage of superintendents, and there's some reasons for that. I think one of them is, golf was in decline until we all became COVID geniuses.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Now we're all golfers again.
Yeah. And so in the decline, golf became maybe the second or third reason people joined clubs. It's now back up to one or two.
Really?
So that's pretty good.
That's good.
And then the other thing was that as the demand for higher and better conditioning came along, what we saw was clubs going to seasonal workforces and less summer workforces.
Oh, wow.
So we've exposed a lot less young people to the business.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And, that's how we got in it. We were kids
Absolutely.
working on golf course, liked golf, worked at a golf course, loved it, and got into the business. So that's been a real shortcoming. And I'm looking for folks that understand that and want to start developing that resource again as a human resource, because
Just bringing in the summer kids.
that's where
Let
the
them
future
get excited
supers-
about golf and the whole 9 yards. No pun intended.
And I think too many superintendents have maybe written off that generation because they're all worthless. And I can tell you that the superintendents I work with that have refocused on that pipeline are winning. They're winning, and that's exactly what you said.
Every generation has had that same.
Yeah, of
my
course.
father said it. I'll say it to my son.
We would
he'll
never
say
make
to
it,
his
right?
son. All these kids are worthless.
And it's hilarious because I want somebody with a little more standing than I have to write the article, research it. But I firmly believe that this generation, who has this very interesting balance of social media and work, the life-work balance, is much more akin to what the human condition is.
Oh, that's interesting.
If we go back to pre-industrial revolution, work and life were combined. They were completely intertwined. And this younger generation's much more like that.
Yeah.
So maybe we're the ones that got off track.
They got it wrong.
Work.
I think we should
life.
be looking internally. I agree with
Yeah.
you.
So I don't have any disdain for the latest generation. I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
As we all grow up, we change a little bit, learn a little bit more, and are able to reflect upon the past. And I'm sure they will do the same thing.
Yes. Kind of sucks having the old man conversation, doesn't it?
And even going back to when you came out of school or when I came out of school, you would look at those individuals that maybe weren't looking for the brass ring job kind of a little differently.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to the end of my career, or nearing the end of my career, and you look at those guys that spun off to the Muni courses and they're retired at 58. Right. I mean, it's perspective.
Yeah. But when it comes to actual supply superintendents, the people that are our age, almost your age, we're all thinking about retiring.
No.
They're not retiring now. They got to go another couple, 3 years.
They can't afford to.
Yeah. So that impending shortage we had isn't as short as it might have been.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're going to see is superintendents with gray hair.
Yes. Oh, we're already seeing that.
Yeah.
I can look around this room and see a few of those.
Yeah. Or hair, period.
Or hair at all.
Or you just keep cutting it shorter and shorter, so it doesn't show up.
And I think you're going to see a lot more retired, quote unquote, superintendents that are still going back and helping out on the golf course, which
Just
is
like Woody and Todd.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Very
just
similar.
our friend Mike Kozar, who rode around.
Kozak,
Kozak. Sorry, I keep saying that. But Mike would ride around, and I think I told you this story. I ran into him at a place, and he was wearing a jumpsuit, and I said, "I'll pay you $1,000 for a picture of Mike Kozak with a sticker that says Mike." But he was a great resource. I mean, of course, anybody knows Mike. He was a great resource, but those resources are coming back into fruition now.
Well, and that reminds me of another one that, a name a lot of people forgot was Craig Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Who followed Eb Steiniger at Pine Valley.
At Pine Valley, right.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, Billy Buchanan called me up when he was still, was he with the tour of the USGA back then? I forget. But he called me up. He said he was at this course, and he saw Craig going out to change cups. and he said, the superintendent goes, "Oh, I see Craig's working for you." The guy's like, "What? Craig? Yeah, that's Craig. That's Craig." He goes, "You don't know who Craig is."
You don't know.
The guy had no clue.
He had
you got
no
the former
idea.
superintendent of Pine
He's
Valley
got an icon.
out cutting cups for you.
Yes.
So
You didn't tell him, I hope. He probably got very intimidated and scared and wondering why.
Yeah.
But even in the last couple of days, it's amazing how many folks in kind of my generational set, late 50s, are already talking about when their time is up. They're going to be the best cup cutter or the best fairway mower for guys like Ryan,
Yeah.
and just keep on.
Yeah, it's
It's hard to unplug.
It is. It's a wonderful thing. It's an industry that people get addicted to.
Yeah.
I think that superintendents have so many traits that would have made them successful in
Anything.
a lot of different
yes.
businesses.
Well, look at everything. Look at all the balls
Yeah.
in the air, for goodness
Yeah.
sake. I mean, they're business managers and they're, human resource managers, and yeah, you're right, and they're mechanics and
The whole
horticulturists.
the whole shift during COVID, I think, really proved that out. That the superintendent's ability to shift on the fly was better than that of anybody else in the operation.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of shifts on the fly.
Yeah, well,
A lot.
The organization that does the most audits for clubs, they have said in front of a group of GMs that the best zero-based budgeter at almost every club is the superintendent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocking, right?
Yeah. And so we had placed a superintendent at a position, and as COVID came in, he produced 3 different budgets. Said, listen, here's the budgets that we want to consider. One was bare bones, let's survive. One was, a little less than the prior year, and one was, a normal kind of budget with a slight increase.
And chances are he volunteered that information.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was prepared.
Well, they ended up making him the GM because the GM did
Because
not.
he could run a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we see things like that.
Yeah.
And that's why we've seen superintendents make the transition because they're always very organized. I forget, we were doing a search at a club in California, and the former GM had been a super turned GM.
Yeah.
And we're walking through the clubhouse, and I was with Tom Wallace, and Tom goes, he's looking around, he goes, you can tell this is a superintendent turned GM. Everything was exactly in its place and completely orderly and structured.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, you could tell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about that. You do a lot of GM searches. What's the trends going on in GMs now? I mean, it seems like there's always a GM job. You guys are always posting something at Coughlin.
Yeah, we as a company at Koppler, Keebler, and Wallace, we focus a lot on governance because if you look at a club model, new president every year, boards that rotate out either 3-year terms or they maybe go 2 terms, 6 years, and they're usually limited to that. Who in their right mind would run any business that way?
Right. Right.
Really?
This makes no sense.
When those volunteer committee members or board members usually have an axe to grind or a special interest, and that's the only reason they're willing to serve in the first place.
Yeah, so that's why we spend so much time with these clubs. When we do a GM placement, we go back in a couple months and do a board retreat. And, we work on club governance and try to steer that process because that's how we can help GMs become much more successful because as you change in leadership all the time, GMs are left out in the cold sometimes.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So what's the difference in your perspective? A lot of those titles have changed now to CFO or COO. What is there a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we see is we'll see the occasional CEO where they really just turn it over and say,
Right.
you run the business. We don't see that very often, but we'll see a lot of COOs. And the COO role is different than the GM role. I look at, now, there's a lot of crossover in titles or titles, but when we see COO types, they really are a partner with the board of directors and help steer them into making better decisions, and they're operating at a higher level along with them, as well as being down in the weeds. But those COOs are really setting the strategy for the future for their clubs.
Sure.
And
Are there superintendents going into those roles?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Go,
Yeah.
into the
we've had-
COO and CFO role?
Yeah. Not CFO.
Not CFO, but certainly COO.
Yeah, we've had a lot of superintendents make the transition. I used to joke with superintendents too. I go, there are a lot of old GMs, but there are no old superintendents. You got to get into your 50s. You might start thinking about your skill set.
Yeah.
Now,
What do I do now?
the personality types can be very different.
Yeah.
As a GM, you need to be much more outgoing. You want to be the face of the club, and a lot of superintendents don't have that personality.
You're doing a search for one of my former clubs right now, and the GM who was there for 28 years gave me a piece of advice, and he said, it doesn't matter what you do, and he was giving it to me, not to himself. He said, it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna piss off 5% of the membership every year. So in 10 years, you might as well pack your bags. And he retired after 28 years.
Yeah, well,
so he had something figured out.
Yeah, well, quite a few years ago, I got Dick Copland to write an article about 8 years being a magic time.
That's the magic time, is 8?
Probably a similar formula, right?
Yeah, and I tell people at 8 years, when you've been in a job for that long, you need to do one of two things. You either need to go find a new job,
Right.
or you need to re-energize yourself and pretend you started yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
And you go pick all that low-hanging fruit that's been falling on the ground.
And how do you do that?
It's all in the head.
It's all in the head.
Yeah, you gotta just change your focus and just look at it very differently.
Yeah. So what's it looking like now in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm going to be older.
We'll both be old. That's all right. But we'll still be here.
Yeah, no, we're seeing there's some great young talent out there.
Yeah.
I ran into Joel Livingood here from Interlochen. And Joel's same age as my kids basically.
Yeah.
And he's a rock
And
star.
sharp.
Yeah,
Really
very
he's
sharp.
a rock
Very
star.
good.
And so we're seeing a lot of talented young GMs come up. There's always been a lot of talented young supers.
Yeah.
But that, too, is an example of a great team. He and Brian do a really good job of teaming up, and really they're in lockstep with each other.
Yeah. So, the future's bright for clubs. Now,
Good.
I've been counseling clubs to remember the last recession.
Good.
Yeah.
Keep this.
We've
in your
talked
back
about
pocket.
this.
Yeah, since we're all COVID geniuses now,
Right, exactly.
Every club's got a waiting list. Initiations are up, and dues are going through the roof because of obvious things. And I go, do you want to be the club that 3, 4, 5 years from now has to drop your initiation 50%? Is that the kind of message? Now, you're going to leave some money on the table, yes, but you know what? People aren't leaving clubs, so how much you really leaving on there?
Exactly.
And let's look at the long-term implications and value add of being reasonable about this. And so, some listen to me,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, and I love to observe the human condition and to see how people think. So it's
Or
it's
don't
gonna
think.
Be, yeah,
Or exactly. I was just going to say that.
yeah. So it's going to be fun to see how this all pans out.
Wow.
So,
Armen,
so hold on. I want to.
go ahead. Do this.
The best piece of advice probably I've ever gotten was from you, Armen, and it was when you came in and consulted for us at Desert Forest, and it was a particularly rough time with the membership, and you asked me how often I was in the pro shop, and I think my answer was something to the effect that, it's really painful to do that, and I'm not sure I get there enough. And he said, and you told me, they can't shoot you in the back if you're facing them.
Yeah.
And that was the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I pass that along to hundreds of people, and it always resonates.
Yeah, and I don't remember saying it.
But it sounds like you, though.
No, that's absolutely.
I would say it's you.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Hey, thank you so much.
All right, guys, thank you. This is great.
I think I said this to you yesterday, but you have been graciously on our podcast a couple times. You still stand as our most listened to podcast, and we've had hundreds of them now and thousands of hours of listening. And Armen Suny keeps popping to the damn top. We keep trying to push you down, but you're always back there.
Yeah, well, it's always a pleasure, and I believe in what you're doing too. So
Yes,
that's why I show up here.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, and it's always good bouncing stuff off you. And next time you're in Philly, look me up.
All right.
Look it up. Thanks you
Thanks
so
so
much.
Thanks, Armen.
And that is the EarthWorks Podcast. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, everybody here at the GIS, and we're going to move on. Thank you, brother.
Good job.